Three, two, one. I'm John Miglosh for the WDMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. So yesterday I got a little bit triggered about an article. Two myths that keep marketing teams from using data effectively. I would guess that there's way more than two. But it suddenly occurred to me that about 50% of what I've done in my career is work with the interface between IT and showing them how to turn the data into information, and then showing it to the creative people and showing them how to take information and make it into money. And if you've ever seen my book, which is around here someplace, if you've ever seen my book, then you've seen that it actually didn't work quite like that. I thought it did, but it didn't. What I did was they told me what they wanted to do. Cabela's wanted to mail out a big book, and I showed them what the ROI could be. So I aligned the data. Bullock and Jones decided that they wanted to do a shoe book and a golf apparel book, and we showed them how to do that with the data, how to select the right customers. Baseball Express wanted to do a girls' fast pitch catalog, and we showed them how to find the right customers. Musician's Friend wanted to do a drummer book, wanted to do a DJ book. We showed them how to find the right people for that. So most of what I've done is take the creative ideas coming from the client and execute them. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is driving the creative process, and I've had a couple of really big experiences, so we're going to talk about that today explicitly, okay? You get into the creative environment, and it's, we want to win awards. That was the agency. We want to break through creative. That was the agency. We don't want to create to a time clock. That was a creative team that I managed of about 7 or 8 people. 6 or 7 or 8, I don't know, a bunch of people, some freelancers and stuff. We don't create to a time clock. We have to have the room to create, which means they wanted me not to tell them what to do. Most of what we call knowledge is actually more like feeling. There isn't really that much that we know for sure. And I've been an advocate for proven results, which is let's find something we know for sure, and then let's take it down into here. And that's, I suppose, what this expression data-driven marketing is, but there's very little of it. In actual fact, it more runs the other way. And I can show you how to do the other way, because we've done it like that for 20 years, where the creative people say, this is where we want to go, the owner, the president, the VP of marketing, and we have them do it. I mean, that's fine. But there are occasions when we've made some really huge breakthroughs. Okay, and we talked about this yesterday, so we're going to skip that. We're going to go, and these are some of my first creative experiences, and this one was in my portfolio. The other one was in my portfolio when I got to the ad agency, and they didn't care. They said, we never want to see your portfolio again. And the funny part was that we won 5 out of 5 creative pitches. And in every case, they said, we like that guy who says you can measure the results, that you can test the results, you can figure out the ROI, you can know what's going on. We want proven results. But when the actual meeting started, they kept me out, and they didn't let me do it. And this is one of the tests we did. But again, that test, I should say, okay, let's start with that. That test, I was handing out the catalog to friends, and I said, you might need some of these items, okay? We did imprinted items, okay? And they said, looking just at this catalog, they said, why would I want a Pontiac hat? Why would I want to buy Pontiac hats? And I said, no, you put your company name on them. Oh, and off we go. But after that happened about a dozen times, I said to the creative director guy, I said, we need to put your imprint here on the items on the cover. This is kind of what I envisioned. He said, that's going to ugly it up. And I admit it does kind of ugly it up. You got to say. Oops, you got to say it does ugly it up a bit. I don't know what I just did. I think I just saved the document. Anyway, so it does ugly it up a little. But, so anyway, he would not, I don't know what happened now. My computer froze to death. He would not put that up there. He would not, it's just frozen up. He would not show that. I don't know what's going on. My alarm went off for 10:05. No idea why. Okay. He would not do that. And so I sat him down and I said, I really think it's important. And he basically said, no, we're not going to do it. And now my entire computer froze up. I'll try and get that back. Sometimes sometimes it makes you crazy, these computers. And so I said, you're fired. Only guy I've ever done that to. He would not run the test. Okay. And testing is important. So I hired a new guy, and while we were talking about the test, a young designer came in the room and said, are you still talking about that test? And I said, yes. And he said, that's going to ugly the catalog. We shouldn't do that. And the new creative director, who I'd worked with before, he said, John, do you think this will really impact, the company and the performance? And I said, at least 20%. And so Peter spun around, the new creative guy, and he said to the artist, he looked him right in the eye, he said, your job is not to decide the test we run or decide whether we test. Your job is to make it as unugly as possible. And if you look at it, we actually let them have some fun with it, where we let them have the covers where, and we'll get to it eventually. That's the good one. We let them put little bugs down here, and we let them have different typefaces and different phrases and stuff. And so they had a little bit of fun. Okay, and so we're going to talk a little more about that change in that design department and how it went from the worst department to the best department when I left, which is what they told me. Okay, now let's talk about another case study. Okay, this is a company called Pet Edge. It was called New England Serum when we started with them. And New England Serum had been flat or declining a little bit for years, decades really. And so they said, why don't you try a model? And so we did, and we found Fifi the poodle, and I was about the same place yesterday. And we made a bunch of more money. We made about $250,000 in profit, and they made about $180,000 in profit. And the president was just stunned, and he said, how did you do that? And well, we explained it to him anyway. But so we tried again, and the first model had been pre-Christmas, and it showed that all the dog groomers were upscale, high-end, high-income, high dwelling value, high education, high density. And then in the spring, they gave us another chance, and we found low density, low education, low income, low dwelling value. And I was convinced the computers were all broken. But before I called the client and said we give up, I said, okay. And part of the reason different variables work at different times is we're much more specific about our modeling than most companies. Most companies want a model so we can pick the best customers. It doesn't work like that. Best customers in the spring are not the same as the best customers in the fall. Not necessarily. Could be. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it isn't. Best customers for one product category are not necessarily the best products for another. But anyway, we were doing seasonality. So we said, okay, so what could be happening? I called my friend Johnny, and I said, Johnny, do you ever get your dogs groomed? He was out in the country, and he said, no. And I said, and then he said, what do you mean groomed? And I said, a doggy haircut. Oh, yeah. I said, why? And he said, because the dog's all full of burrs. It's getting warmer. The dog seems to like it. I said, do you care how the dog looks when you're done? He said, no. I said, where do you get it done? He said, the vet, the boarding kennel, the pet store. A lot of places have specials in the spring to clip the dogs. Well, it turned out that I flew back out to the client. I said, I think we got something here. And we started talking about how we could implement the data observation, how we could test it, how we could preserve the high-end groomers based on what they'd bought previously, based on their location. We could keep the catalog as it had always been, but we could add a new catalog that primarily aimed at pet stores. And it was a huge success. They grew 20% that year, which was right after 9/11 in a recession. And they grew 20% the next year and the next year. And, of course, then they fired me, which is what happened. So I'm John Miglash for the WDMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about how that implementation gets done. Be sure to like it, but not just like it. Be sure to share. because that spreads the word. If you just like it, it's just you and me. Have a great day. Have fun with your data.